Hey, Nick. Sean Spicer. I understand there's some controversy brewing about how many subscribers you have on YouTube. You have more subscribers than anybody. Then it's probably the biggest, largest YouTube subscription that anybody's had. But also, it's not numbers that matter, Nick. And I know everyone's going to quibble over this, but it's content. It's quality. And your subscribers are amazing. They're great. They're high quality subscribers, and that's really what you have to look at. Don't just focus on the numbers. I mean, if people are spewing a bunch of fake news, just don't get in the mud. They're amazing folks. Their engagement, the way that they like the videos. Anyway, I hope this puts this to the end. I hope that this controversy is over and we know who the real YouTube subscriber champ is, and it's you, Nick.
Hello, and welcome everyone to In Time. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter, and this is our coverage of the debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We'll close that window there for a second. And for those of you who are new to the channel, we are a news show. We do a lot of breaking news, usually 3 or 4 times a year. We manage to actually get ahead of mainstream media, sometimes by hours. We're very proud of that. We do that by sourcing our news usually from social media. We have a Discord. Come check that out. And we are following a lot of news stories there. We're still getting our feet back under us. We were out for a little while, but we are back, and very much enjoy being back. And thank you all so much for your patience and for sticking around with us. It was it's delightful to be streaming again. It's been far too long. With me tonight is, we're going to have a couple of people, and we're going to talk about the format for tonight, if tonight happens at all. We'll be finding out about that in a minute. But the first one with us tonight is Isandring. Isandring, how are you?
I'm doing good. Filling out here in Reno, Nevada, and starting our broadcast with an audio issue.
Well, it would not be in time if you weren't. UTV and ham, KD9W, $5, vote blue. We've talked about this repeatedly. We are an independent news channel. We try as hard as we can to be unbiased, and I hope my conservative brother and co-host below will tell you that we do a pretty good job of that. We're not perfect, but we really do strive for that. Having said that, we will always tell you, whichever side of the aisle, if you want to see your agenda pushed forward, you need to go out and vote. It really does work. If it didn't work, they wouldn't be trying to get voters for 2 years in advance. That's why these campaigns last so long. One of our agendas is Ukraine. That's one of the ones I think everyone here in Time take very seriously. We've had on Operator Starsky as well as Lieutenant General Benjamin Hodges on several times to discuss that issue. Because we believe in that issue, we will tell you that our preference, I think, well, no, I'll stay away from that. But yeah, if you're for Ukraine, I think there's only one answer as to how to vote. Having said that, tonight we are going to have this debate. We're going to talk a bit about what our expectations are, what we think you're going to see. The debate is hosted by ABC. ABC is requesting that people not stream it. It is also, however, being streamed by PBS, which is presumably public and that we can stream from. Also, it is exempt from copyright because we will be issuing commentary throughout the show. Having said that, we've had a wide variety of replies to the copyright problem. We have had quite clear times when it's just obvious that we are within our bounds of copyright law and fair use, and we've been struck. And we used to have a 100% success rate. Recently, it seems to have fallen. I don't know why, culminating in HBO, which, oh my God, they destroyed us on that show, didn't they? I'm still not talking to them. I don't know about you, but. Isandring may have been. He was going to be out of touch for a minute, so I think he's...
Okay, I'm back.
Oh.
Yeah, I was kind of annoyed at HBO over that, especially considering we were giving them free press and free advertising. Geez.
And that show, do you want to tell people why we did that show? Because I think that was a good reason why we did that show.
Well, I'm somewhat of an expert in the trucking industry. And one of the things I always like to know is when you watch a show and they're doing different bits on different topics, it's like, how accurate are they? It's like, are they blowing things out of proportion? Are they dramatizing things? Or are they really giving you some good information? So John Oliver had done a show on the trucking industry. And so I was like, well, let's watch it. Let's see what he has to say. And we'll go through and we'll see how much of it is bullshit, how much of it is real. And is it good information? Is he doing a good job? And while that may not guarantee that every show is going to be accurate, at least if we can, look at one where we know something about it, we can say, okay, it seems that they're putting some work in, or they aren't putting work in to find out if this is accurate. So we sat down to watch through his presentation and see if he was accurate or not. And for the most part, he was.
And in fact, you and I think anybody watching the show could tell you and I watched John Oliver regularly and understood the bits and talked about it. And so here we are, two fans of the show doing a genuine inquiry into, do we think, and since you were the first one to have something where you really, you have the expertise to be able to sit there. And it's something I've always wondered. I've wondered because John Oliver speaks with such confidence that, I left or right, it doesn't. I love John Oliver, and I am on the left, but left or right, I always want to make sure we're getting our stories straight. I loved Keith Olbermann, but I was fully aware nine times out of 10 he was full of it. He took the worst possible example of everything he could on the right, and it just wasn't. He's like dessert, very fattening. Just empty calories, well worth it if you're feeling bad about yourself, the state of your party. But don't go to it if you're really trying to have a good healthy diet. So at any rate, so that's it. What we're going to do is we're going to air this again from PBS. Now, this is something that always happens, which is when we air this, and people I know, just by me saying this, people are going to give me a hard time about this. I shouldn't prep for it because it makes it worse. But what I'm going to say is this. If you want to watch this without any commentary whatsoever, there are plenty of places to do that. We really appreciate your support. We hope you'll stay and watch it here. But we are going to do commentary on it. We're going to try to keep the commentary low because we know you are here to watch it. And we can comment at any time. We're going to stay afterwards and talk for a long time, I suspect, on what we saw. So the guidelines for everyone tonight, and we've already discussed this, is we're going to try to let it go at least 2 or 3 minutes before, not just stopping every 10 seconds. But if we go longer than 2 or 3 minutes without making some kind of comment, it actually dramatically increases the chance of a copyright strike. We are not running a backup stream. We have done that in the past. We're not doing that right now. When we do that, and when we anticipate YouTube taking us down, which does happen on occasion, we go to the backup. We don't have it. So unfortunately, if they take us down, what we will do is simply create a new show and start the just do a debate, post-debate analysis. But my hope is that it doesn't come to that. If it does, you are forewarned how and why. So, having said that, and I think I've covered all the bases. We are expecting Brooks at any time, possibly Commander McMillan. For those of you new to the channel, Brooks is unbelievably intelligent and well-versed in politics. He was with us during all of our coverage of the January 6th committee hearings, and it's insane. This guy has forgotten more about he started talking about what the mood was for people growing up in the 80s, and I was just like, oh yeah, okay, fine, lecture me on that. And like he said it, and I was like, God, holy shit, he's right. And he just knows every president. It's insane. So looking forward to seeing him. He's also one of the nicest people I've ever met. He's a genuinely good guy. And Commander Lance McMillan, who helped stage the Iraq War for the Fifth Fleet out of CENTCOM for the invasion of Iraq. Also a very reputable guy. Those of you who know the Shills well have seen him around. Thank you very much to the Shills, by the way, for sending people over. I will say, the Shills has, obviously no standards, and you can tell because they have me on reasonably frequently. So I want to thank Dick for sending some people over, and we always appreciate it. And I always certainly enjoy my time on the Shills. Dick has enabled clipping now, Isandring, which is really, oh dear Lord, there's going to be some clips. I think you're going to be embarrassed for your co-host here.
Well, that's par for the course. I'm always embarrassed for you.
Fuck. Kind of walked into that one. I ran head first into that one. So we are expecting both Brooks and Commander McMillan presently. McMillan may be a little late. Brooks, you never know. So we'll continue either way. So let's talk a little bit about the debate tonight. I had the format up originally. They'll cover the format, so we honestly don't have to. So, Isandring, what are you looking for in this debate? What do you want to see? What would give you a good indication as to who, quote, won or lost?
Because I actually kind of like decorum, and I think that it's just kind of a sign of weakness when people lose their emotions and start rambling on. So I'm hoping to see, some actual concise, well thought out policies. I mean, I know this is the Harris campaign has finally actually released some of her campaign policies online. It took only 2 months to do that. It was very frustrating. And unfortunately, like most campaigns, a lot of them are just platitudes. So we're going to do this. Great. How? Because that really matters. It's like I can in principle agree with something with you and then completely disagree on how you're going to go about doing it. So I'm hoping to see some actual policies laid out. I'm hoping that they don't go after each other. Of course, this is television and we are talking about Trump. So we'll see how that holds up. And of course, I'm not really holding my breath that Trump's actually going to lay out actual policies instead of rambling on as he does. But that's what I'm hoping for. And the person that's going to win for me is the person who can at least win the debate, whether I actually agree with them or not. The person winning the debates, I think, is going to be the one making the best points, laying out their policies, ignoring the shenanigans of the other candidate, and really makes a good case for why they should be elected.
I think I agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I do agree we haven't seen a lot of policy out of Harris. I think she's got the excuse that, oh, well, this was sudden and here she is. And that's kind of a valid excuse. No, actually, that is a valid excuse. But I think they've been milking it. I think they've been. It's not like I mean, she was VP for a reason. Her policy values have to be reasonably in line with Biden. So while obviously there's going to be changes, obviously she's going to be a different president. She's running for the single most powerful, arguably the single most powerful office on the planet. She needs to start doing those policies. So I think that's. I will say I'm thinking, and this is something we've had this discussion about before. I'm starting to think we may see a blue wave, and I try not to make these predictions, and the reason is because so far I have about a 100% failure rate on them. And so I predicted, I predicted the Yang presidency. You're welcome. I predicted after that, I don't think I actually said he was going to win, but I was just like, I think he's going to get further than people anticipate. No. After that, I predicted a very successful Bernie Sanders presidency, at a minimum of Bernie Sanders winning the no. So I'm kind of tempted to say, the exact opposite of what I want, and then maybe, but who knows? No, I'm almost thinking we're going to see a blue wave, and here's why. That Dick Cheney came out and said that he is going to be voting for, or I think it was Liz Cheney who said, but I think he had confirmed it. If Dick Cheney is voting for Kamala Harris, in my view, that is a game changer. That did not make huge news. And that's fine. I don't mind that it didn't make huge news. Every Republican knows he did that. And for all of the old guard, he gave them permission to do it. And the reality is, all of them know there's consequences if they say they're going to do it. There are consequences if they come out against Trump. This is Trump's ruling style is a mafioso ruling style. If you fuck with him, he will find a way to get revenge. It's just and he's done it. He said he's going to do it. He's got a hit list. That's half of what 2025 is about. So I think a lot of Republicans are scared of him, rightly so if you want to stay in politics. He's proven that. And I think a lot would genuinely feel disloyal and feel like they're somehow going to get in trouble even though they're the only ones in the voting booth. I think they are going to want to vote for him even though they don't like him. Like, I can't possibly vote for a Democrat. I cannot do that. Dick Cheney has just given them permission. So what I think you're actually going to see, this is my prediction, you're going to see an increase in the polls for conservatives because now that they feel like they can vote for Kamala, they can come out and endorse Trump even more. So they're going to come out and say, oh yeah, Trump's our guy, and then they're going to go in, vote Kamala, and then if she wins, come out and say, oh man, what the hell happened? That's what I think is going to happen. So that's the first one. Any thoughts on that theory?
Yeah, there's definitely the idea of the secret voter where somebody is more or less just going along with whatever the popular idea, wherever they happen to be, is, and then saying, yeah, I'm going to vote for somebody else, and it's just not politically or personally advantageous for me to be spouting off about it. And so rah, go candidate that everybody else around me wants to, but when I get into the voting booth, I'm voting for the other person. So yeah, I think I think that actually has some merit, and one of the things that can make trying to guess who's going to win so difficult, because it's like I can get driving out on the road. It's like, okay, obviously trucking industry swings very dramatically towards the conservative side. So you just see Trump everywhere. Everybody's talking about Trump. And it's like, yeah, I wonder how many of these people out here actually are going to vote for Trump. So it seems like there's overwhelming support in the trucking industry for Trump, but who actually knows? I'm not convinced of that. It makes it really hard to judge.
Well, and the other thing that I'm thinking of that might contribute to a blue wave, and I want the blue wave, right? Because I'm on the left, so I'm going to see anything that's going to help support what I want. Trump's been making some strange comments even for Trump, that mosquito incident where he was like, "Wait, yeah, we got to get rid of all the bad politicians," and I think you looked into that, right? And you had said that you thought it was he was talking about the environment, and then you're like, no, he just went off the rails.
Yeah, he lost the thread.
Yeah, mid, and he regained it. I mean, he got it back, but stuff like that was what got me concerned about Joe Biden. I mean, you and I had this, and we were frank about it from the beginning, which was Joe Biden was not competent to run the country. He just wasn't. The liberals were just content to say, that's okay. The non-elected officials around him that he appoints will do it for him, which is true, but that may or may not be okay depending on your ideology. For the left, that's fine. For the right, it's like these are all unelected officials making, massive decisions. We've seen some signs that the stress is getting on Trump. He is how many times? 34 times, I think, convicted felon. A huge amount of money, his money vanished as the value of Truth Social has plummeted. It's not clear he had any real money beforehand. He seems to do everything in essentially leveraged buyouts, which means it's all done in debt. And even he admits that. He's that famous line where he and Ivanka are going by a homeless man right outside of Trump Tower, and he points to the homeless man and says, he's got more money than I do. To which Jon Stewart responded, yeah, Donald Trump, it shows you that even if you're a millionaire, you can still be a dick about it. Or sorry, even if you're poor, you can still be a dick about it. For fuck's sake. So, I was going to... My cutting back on the swearing worked for 18 minutes. Okay, perfect. That's just great. Anyways, so I think he's having some mental health issues due to stress, and I don't think it's specifically age related. Although the older you get, the harder it is to deal with stress. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's got to be feeling it. I mean, it's quite a pace that you have to keep up. You have to try and keep a lot of stuff, or at least if you're serious, you have to try and keep a lot of stuff in your head. And that's why I think some of Trump's rallies kind of go weird directions and topics seem to wander around a lot, is because he's not trying to maintain such a strict discipline. He wants to play off the crowd and just kind of wing it, because that's a lot less stressful.
Yeah.
Ask me how I know that, so I could actually prepare for a show and go, oh my God, I need to actually read this and I need to know this and actually be prepared, because somebody might ask me a question about something and I should at least have a somewhat cogent answer. It's way more stressful than me just showing up and going, hey, if we can't have policy procedures tonight, I hope it's the biggest dumpster fire ever so I can at least have some entertainment.
Well, you get off the hook for not really being able to be prepared. What's really, I think, kind of a dick move is that when somebody decides to debate you on an issue like, say, gun control, and they know that you can't prepare, and they have slides and the whole 9 yards, and they're like, oh, this is going to be an even match. That only a dick would do that. Anyways, moving forward. We'll stay off that topic. All right, so let's see where we are. We've got about 5 minutes into it, so let's get the screen up, and let's see. As of yet, nothing from Brooks and or Commander McMillan. Brooks likes to show up sort of last minute, so he may still easily be here right as we start, and then the Commander McMillan has already told us he's going to be a little late no matter what happens. So, Trump's been making a lot of. There are signs too that Trump is getting nervous about it. I will say this: I've seen clips from his last, from today, what he's been doing today and what he was doing yesterday. He looked energized and he looked strong and he stayed on topic. I was actually genuinely impressed. Mildly concerned because I was just like, that's not the Trump that I'd really like to see here. But he was on it, and definitely not like he was several days ago. So I don't know what the reason for that is.
I have my own thoughts on what the reasons for some of that stuff is.
Please.
Now, unfortunately, I can't joke about them pumping Joe Biden full of drugs to try and drag him up on stage and hope that he makes a cogent thought exit his mouth properly. Just crossing their fingers and hoping. Now I get to make that joke about Trump because that's probably why he's super energized. And I mean,
Adderall. Yeah.
Yep. Drug cocktails are amazing things for at least a short while.
Well, and one of the things that I think is it's just unfortunate. And again, it's sort of like we try to. One of the things we do on this channel is we dissect the news and we break it down and we break down how and why something may seem. And one of my favorite shows actually was when, unfortunately, the assassination of 𝐒𝐨𝐻𝐬 Abe, because we broke down how they were responding and we said, okay, we're calling it. He's dead, and we called it long before it was called by any other news organization. But we did it by putting together your knowledge of gunshot blasts and gunshot wounds and how to treat them. Also, Dr. Ben was with us, and but also the statements made by the government. The government said our doctors are doing everything they can for him. It's like, oh, he's dead. The reason is the government's obviously going to say the most positive thing they can say during a crisis. The most positive thing that they can defend is what they're going to say. Our doctors are doing everything they can for him. My primary care physician right now, at this exact moment, is doing absolutely everything he can for Abraham Lincoln. That is a true statement. It's not a very encouraging one. So, we try to break down what you see in the news. So a friend of mine went up and said, the biggest mistake that the Democrats made for the Biden debate was not giving Biden that drug of cocktails. Drug of cocktails, cocktail of drugs before he went on. And I'm just like, oh, you think that's bad? I'm assuming they gave it to them. What if that was him on the cocktail? I can't believe they didn't do it. No, I think they did it. I'm pretty sure. I was like, yeah, I know he's just because of that bad performance. They're like, he must have not had it. No, my concern is he did.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I mean, something that important, especially, he was definitely given the cocktail. And I think that's some of the issues like in the 2016 presidential run where we saw some of the weird issues with Hillary Clinton, where collapsing outside of a van and then they just yeet her in the back and take off. And it's like, well, when you crash on those things, you crash pretty hard. So I just look around and it's like, if I were going to try and keep up that kind of schedule, keep up that kind of energy, keep doing all of that stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm 47, about to be 48, and I'm like, you're going to need to give me some drugs here to keep me going on that kind of schedule, because I am not going to look upbeat and peppy and campaign worthy after 1 month of doing this. I'm going to be drug out. I'm going to have huge bags under my eyes. I'm going to be a zombie. I'm not going to be able to string words together. I mean, it's on a good day, I can maybe get some together and sound coherent. But man, I'm just going to start slurring everywhere. I'm going to forget everything. So all the points I want to make are going to go right out the window. Somebody's going to ask me a question, and I'm going to end up with, what's a Lebo?
All right, what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to turn on the sound just for a minute. They haven't started just yet, but I'd like to see if we're getting an echo and make sure that everyone else can hear it.
I probably should make sure I can at least hear it.
Yeah, that would be a help. I actually can't hear a thing myself.
This PBS News presentation is made possible by Consumer Cellular.
All right, so everyone, were you able to hear that?
Yes, I heard it.
Okay, so hopefully there wasn't an echo for the audience, so let us know. Okay, perfect. Wow, the sound was done correctly the first time. That's ow! I'm a little freaked out. Yeah, I'm honestly, by watching Trump today, like I said, he was actually doing spectacularly well today. But I didn't see Harris doing much. And what she did do was, hanging out in rooms, making phone calls, stuff like that. What he was doing was out in front of audiences and doing what he likes. And it does energize him. Ooh, and I did miss the previous super chat too, so let me get to both of those. The other thing is, I'm thinking Trump may have overexerted himself. She seemed to be, conserving her energy for the debate, and he was everywhere. Like I said, he was actually doing well, but he was everywhere. All right, so we have from Papa Dutch 2 super chats, $5 for myself. I will vote my conscience as an Earthling, and what is good for us all. Amen. Thank you. Absolutely. And then also a $2 from Papa Chuck. The Lance Armstrong of modern politics. All right, let's listen in.
Campaigns with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken on an entirely new dynamic.
And that brings us to the rules of tonight's debate. 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. No topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes for rebuttals and 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or responses. Their microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
That is, I just heard from Brooks, so let me see if I can get him in here. I wonder why the right matters.
Looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing. And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
I'm going to pause it for a second. I'd like to welcome Brooks. Brooks, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you. Can you hear everything fine?
Hello. I'm doing fine. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Sunday might be joining in a second too, so...
all right. He's absolutely welcome. In fact, I'll put him in Lance's spot, and then if Lance shows up,
we'll move everyone around.
Yeah, all right.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done.
All right, this I have to stop. Brooks, you know why I'm stopping this. Why am I stopping this?
I mean, I have no idea. It's normal Trump garbage, but go ahead.
Tariffs. Tariffs are a tax on Americans, not on other countries. And this is what
it's technically not even a tax. Like, again, Trump just generally is dumb, so you can stop it always. I think the answer is always he's an idiot. But a tariff basically exists for one reason and one reason only, and it's to discourage people from buying a thing. That's it. Yeah. Although actually it was not the Heritage Foundation, but there was a right-wing economic group that came out and said, yeah, it's actually it is fair to call it a tax on Americans because it's American businesses, and he wants to put a tariff on aluminum so that will reduce the amount of aluminum coming in and increase the cost of aluminum here. So it ends up being and it's Americans who are importing it that have to pay. Yeah, basically what you generally want to do is for at least once upon a time is luxury goods, things that people didn't have to get, or that, you wanted to encourage people to buy the local version of it, handbags, for example, as long as that exists. But as soon as you're doing it on commodity production, especially since we've sent so many parts of commodity production overseas, it literally is just it will just raise the prices of things and ruin people. That's it.
Yep. And just so you know, in order to hopefully not get a copyright strike, we're trying to do an interrupt every 3 to 5 minutes. I was going to say 3 minutes, but I think we can go as far as 5. But I also want to make sure people see it because they're here to see that. But I want to thank.
No, it's worth it. Also,
I want to thank
Trump when he talks about these. Sorry, I'll stop.
Jabsty 1989 just gifted 10 memberships. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We're again trying to get back on our feet, and that helps a lot. We really appreciate your support. Thank you very much for that. Let me get going with it, and then we'll stop in when either somebody says something really outrageous. And again, we're going to talk afterwards. Please. Yes.
Just before, because how Trump talks about it is he talks about it specifically, and he's done this now for the last 3 weeks in response to Kamala and her overall policies. He's like, he was asked about how he's going to do childcare and provide for that. And he's like, oh, with tariffs, because he's stupid enough. I actually think he is stupid enough to think that the government gets money from tariffs.
Yes. Good point. Here's what I'm going to do. Sorry, I got distracted. There was a good point in the point. I'm going to speed this up just a bit. The only option I had was 1.25. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. That'll help us catch up. If too many people just find that annoying, let me know. We'll play it at the regular pace. What's most important is that you can listen and understand and make this as easy on people as possible. So let's give this a shot.
For the world, and the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality. And we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
Sure it was.
Yeah. So you think it was a fair job?
Mishandling, sure, mishandling, but he left us with the worst, pandemic or whatever it was. She said, it's like, wait a minute, he had nothing to do with it actually coming about.
And every country got stuck with the similar problems. I mean, every country had to deal with it. Ones that had good medicine beforehand, but all right, we'll continue.
We have done, and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight.
I didn't realize he was in. I have to know in order to get him into.
I'm listening to him.
Yeah, you can hear him, but until he actually gets a window, I can't. So I didn't hear him. So.
You and Ibrox can hear him. But that's
I will get him. Welcome, President Sunday. Let me. I will start this back up again, and I will get you a window, and then I'll be able to hear you, as will the rest of you're in the.
Responding there for a minute, and we were.
I was wondering why the silence, because I can't hear that room either. All right.
No, for me and Isandring to not be talking means someone else is.
I was just like, okay. So let's get this playing. I will get him a window. I may have to change that functionality. It's easier to mute people if someone gets out of control, which this is in time. That happens all the time.
Sunday, can you hear him?
Yeah, he should be able to hear me. It's just, yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll get him a window.
You're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president...
Well, you get that going. I'll make Sunday's point for him because I think it's a valid one. The nature of the critique is that Trump left us with the worst pandemic. He didn't have to leave us with the worst health crisis in a century. He could have left us with a health crisis. And I think that's the point Sunday was going for.
That's a very good point. I don't know. Isandring, thoughts?
I don't know if he can hear you yet, Sunday.
No, I can't hear Sunday yet just because it's taking me a bit longer than I had anticipated. But Sunday is now with us.
It's like a weird
thing. It's
hey.
Hey, how's it going, President Sunday? How you doing?
It is going fantastically. So you haven't heard a single thing I've said yet so far, have you?
No, I haven't, and it's been a delay. I mean, I'm terribly sorry. I don't know what happened. Technical issues, obviously. But I think the point is, and I do want to get back to this, but I want to make sure we've got the point, which is that
it's not that important to me. We can keep going.
All right.
Intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us, and I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns. We got masks. We did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say, look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this, because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming.
I do like that phrasing, as a national sales tax. That's a really good way to reframe it.
That is, I'm curious to see now if Trump is going to argue with the. I'd love to see him argue with the moderator.
He's going to talk about immigration.
Okay.
Into this country, as you know, many economists.
What I'm kind of saying here is he's going to parrot back her rhetoric back at her. I think this is going to just be Simon Says all night.
That's an interesting observation. I think you may have a point.
Say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher prices, is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump.
Yours are far worse.
Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I said don't get into trade deficits because yours are far worse.
Oh, the Biden. Okay. While we got a pause, I wanted to say Lakeside Miners $5 super chat. Axos made a bingo card for the debate for anybody interested. I'm going to be looking that up in a little bit and check that out. Thank you very much for your support and for the super chat.
Presidency. He ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 50.
Sorry, what was that, Brooks?
They always make these people sound so much cooler than they are, and they're not.
Yeah.
She's a Marxist. She will destroy the police. She'll change everything. She'll get rid of corporations. All of you will be happy. Ah. It's like, yeah, no, trust me, if she was any of those things, I'd be like wearing a Kamala t-shirt.
15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country.
Told you, go right back to the immigrants.
Yeah, he's orbiting that.
They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals, and that's bad for our economy too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job.
Let the candidate say it.
Holy shit! I'm sorry, I just had to fall. Okay. Yeah, he's. Oh wow. Okay, here we go. Yep. We're gonna go. We're gonna let him do his whole thing. We'll let her rebuttal. Yeah.
The governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do.
You're pro-life. Why?
Because, look, you need to make exceptions in the case of rape, because if your father's an asshole, you do deserve to die.
But like that's not helping him though with his base though. Like I'm just, even on a cynical level, like I'm confused by this. Like this, why would you even make that point? Just ignore it. They don't give a shit. They don't care about rape victims. They don't care about people who are underage. They don't care about people with medical conditions.
They like that. In fact,
well, he's trying. I think he's just trying. It's just a play to the middle, and I think his base isn't.
But why? He has no appeal with the middle. Like there's nobody in the middle is voting for Trump.
Oh dear Lord! Well, and I love the. I mean, he literally just like my opponent is for murdering children. I'm against that. That's literally
except no, we're gonna call it murdering children. Except sometimes, it's just like you got to pick one. It can't be. Oh, it's murder. But let's be reasonable. Like you have to make a decision here.
I did not have my opponent is for executing children on my bingo card for this. Really did not have.
It'd be really fun though if Kamala were to come out and be like, "Look, it's just fun to kill babies." Regardless of response, it would be pretty awesome.
I mean, it would explain their Gaza policy for the last time.
It would. And hold on, I just got an email from YouTube. Defunded. For all existence, demonetized.
So you invited me on here. You knew what you were doing.
It's entirely my fault. Papa Dutch, who became a member and then just did a $10 super chat. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate the membership, and we demonetize this stream because it's a public stream. That's why the music when you hear Imagine Dragons on our intro, when you hear copyrighted music, whatever it is, Queen, whatever, we're demonetized, and we get demonetized a lot. We show graphic content, unfortunately, sometimes when we're doing our news coverage. It is the way of it. So we survive on support. So Papa Dutch, thank you very much for the $10 super chat. I advise everyone to download every word of the original Uncut Debate. This is history right here in front of us. It's insane. And I was going to wait to, but it's just like, I just love that. Okay. He's like, she's for murdering, executing children. I was like, you're aware that once they're born, there are laws that already cover that.
Well, I mean,
exceptions.
Not the Republicans have their way. They absolutely want you to be able to kill them after they're born. They just want them to be ugly first.
Yeah, they well, after they're born, that's when they lose their rights.
Very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar,
really.
Every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the...
Hang on, no, Brooks. Are you going to argue with every legal scholar?
The majority of people believe in the rights of abortion to be between a woman and the doctor, period. And every time when you get into specifics, it's because people are thinking of their own personal circumstances where they're at. The majority of people have not been in this. It has not torn the country apart. There's a very loud, vocal piece of shit, tiny group of Christians who have been angry about this for years and have pretended to be the moral majority. It's a great lie. And it's a lie that they've continued to tell. And this is just the continuation of it to fascism.
Absolutely. I think when Roe v. Wade fell, or at least right before it did, there was the latest poll said upwards of about 67 to 68% of Americans were against overturning Roe v. Wade. So, and that argument was made for.
Honestly, I'm still stunned that they did it when they did, that they couldn't wait and hold off post-election. Like, it's just, there's a lot of choices they made that it's a very strange thing. I'm amazed they didn't keep it going, because it's the only thing that's kept Republicans in power.
It's been a spectacular wedge issue.
The states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices. There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies.
Okay, sorry. Just
for the life. Fucking great. That made this debate worth it.
Thank you very much.
That was amazing. Just eat shit, fuck off. Now to you. This is just fucking beautiful.
Okay, we're gonna play that one back. That was perfect.
That's beautiful.
5 Canadian from Mr. Dawson. Laundry run from the shills. Please do it. I have no idea what it is. He just missed the best line, so I'm going to make sure he hears about it.
You know what that reminded me of? The delivery of that. There's a famous blooper. I can't remember what show it was on, but there's a news blooper where it's there were 2 anchors, one a man, one a woman, and the guy was like, at the end of a bit, it's like, isn't it amazing how something so small can be so impressive? She just looks at him and is like, yeah, well, you would know about that. And just returned back to the show. It's like it was the same. It was the exact same delivery.
Same energy. Yeah. It's just so like excellent. Everything you said is a lie. Now to you. It's just.
Well, and every other network that has had that, I'm thinking back to all the previous debates that Trump has been on, and they've all had difficulty. CNN, everybody's had difficulty managing him. This is a professional job. This is a really good job. So I just want to make sure. I'm going to try to not go back too much, but yeah, we're going to hear that again.
There is no state in this country.
No. We're going to hear that. We're going to hear. Okay, we're going to go back just a little further, just to give it a. There we go.
Hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states, and through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important.
But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body.
Is a long and storied tradition. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, that is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree.
Just some notes. Because it's the thing to notice, I always pay attention. I did a lot of media training and then was media trained quite a bit. And when you see how people react to being on camera, it's really fascinating how the camera sets them up. Kamala, one, looks better than she's ever looked. And I mean, literally physically. They did her makeup specifically. They knew where she was going, how she was going to be lit, all of that. And she's always looking at the camera, by the way. She's not looking at the anchors. This is very particular stuff. She's trying to connect with the people at home. There's no audience there. There's no audience. So Trump has nobody to play off of. He is playing off of the anchors. He doesn't look at the camera once. Doesn't give a fuck about it when at home. But also the lighting makes him look jaundiced. It's a jaundiced look. It's not an orange man bad. It's jaundiced. He looks ill and awful. It's kind of amazing. The background, they knew. Everyone, by the way, knows what the setup is going to be. He chose to be the same color.
Yeah.
Like, which is insane, by the way. Don't ever do that. If you know where you're going to be, don't ever wear a blue suit in a stage that's going to be blue, or red, white, and blue, for example.
Well, I think the idea is he looks bigger than his opponent on camera by absorbing the mass of the stage set.
He is the stage. That's what we're not seeing.
Yeah, he looks a little more like a floating head.
Of it. And again, watch how their eyes move and everything. Kamala did a terrible during her debate performances. Like, what was it, 8 years ago now? Whatever it was, 4 years ago. I don't even remember anymore. Time has blurred. She was shit. She's doing far better this time. They've really put the spurs to her and had her really get to work on this. It's nice.
I like how you're calling me Lance McMillan there. I'm waiting to see if he lashes out at the moderators, because that'll be interesting. Because that was on point.
Is that a white woman?
I think it's a perfectly justified interjection, but it is the moderators taking a side, and I am curious.
It's a white man and a woman of color. He's gonna take it out on, guess which one?
Government, and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice
Hats
President
off to you,
Harris.
Kamala.
There she goes
That's
again.
good
It's a
shit.
lie. I'm not signing a ban,
That was
and there's
very
no
good.
reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well, I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it.
You
So it's just
moron.
talk. You know what it reminds
That's what this is for, is that election. It's right now split. We're having an election. You're going to be elected. There are people, it's going to change. She won't be able to get it now with the 50-50 House the way it is now. We'd have to have some kind of event that would change the numbers of that. And I'd have to fuck that up completely to have the Republicans lose seats.
Dear Lord.
Reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been, part of the reason they lost, to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that
putting in power. He just said, blocked the thing that everyone wanted, and Biden couldn't get done. I did that. He just took credit for amazing.
Yeah.
This is going to be actually, this might be an interesting debate. I was wrong Sunday when I said this.
Papa Dutch, $5 makes an excellent point, actually. This is a really good point. If you are the boss, your self-confidence takes a great leap. She doesn't have to answer to Biden in this. So in previous debates, if she was the vice president, she has to keep in mind that she represents Biden's views, not her own. So that is an excellent point, and thank you very much again for your continued support. We really appreciate it. I'm going to get myself a glass of water. I'll be away just for like a minute, but I'm going to get some.
No worries. When
they talked about that.
Is Lance coming on? When Lance comes on, I'll take off. I might cover this myself later on tonight. If anyone, for whatever reason, wants my commentary as a Canadian, God knows why. But you know, I've been
that's right.
like
You're
hours
Canadian.
already.
Why
So
the hell are you here?
well, because you need people of like culture in your. Well, I'm from Canada. Fuck, I can't say that.
Yeah,
never mind.
And you're a conservative. Why are you here? I've got control over your microphone, presumably. I've never gotten it to work though.
I know.
Okay, I'm going to hit play. Hold on a second.
That they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond. But I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers, to go and get the health care she needs, barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans
He's
believe in a
pissed.
woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and
Jesus
blue
Christ,
states
he's doing
both,
good.
the people of America
I was
voted for freedom.
worried.
Vice
I was
President
Excuse me, I
worried.
have to respond. Another lie. It's another
Oh, here we go.
Oh, yeah, he's got to
Let it go.
start to
Let it
get
go.
into
Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. I'm sorry.
lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that?
10th month, 11th
Why don't you
month.
ask her
Why-
that question?
why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question, would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's not
month,
true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President
All right, I'm going to pause it for a sec. So what we're going to do is we actually do have room. We don't need the window. I just need to know. So we're going to bring Lance in. We can have all of you.
Well, I'm probably going to tap out just because I'm exhausted.
All right.
Sunday.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
It's
5
not
more
even
minutes.
my country.
It's been
Okay, this is your
fun.
problem.
It's-
We've got
you've
abortion
been
here.
laughing.
We're covered.
You've been laughing.
America's
Exactly.
everyone's country, my friend.
So hold on, I can't hear Lance yet, but I can now. Commander, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Yep, we can hear you fine. Did I call Sunday Commander earlier? Was somebody
Trying to
making fun
get
of me
this
for that?
thing
Or?
running properly.
That is what my name
All
tag
right.
says.
Oh, your name tag. Oh, yeah, because that was yeah. There you go. Well, you
Yeah,
get
we
to
just
be
stuck you in a
Commander
spare
for a night.
window.
President Stolen Valor now.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to hit play. Yes, Commander, we can hear you. You can get yourself set up, and we will continue.
All right. By the way, can I just? I was actually curious about this. I hadn't heard about this.
Yeah.
So this is the actual quote.
Okay.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly
Just
what would
have to
happen.
figure out why I'm getting a double noise here.
That's an excellent question.
You're getting everything we're saying copied back to you twice. Could look into it. Could be a faulty camera. That may be on my end. I can look.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a second. I will look into it.
Sure. So very
what's the
quickly.
quote?
Yeah. So very quickly. So the thing he's talking about the government says we'll take the baby after
I've
it's
solved it. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. No worries. So we'll take the baby after it's born, and we'll put it aside, and then we'll decide what to do with it. He's treating this as like you would take the baby and decide whether to execute it. What he's actually responding to is a question concerned with a baby being born with low chance of survival, as in like it's severely ill, as in like will die without an attempt at resuscitation. So what he's talking about is, would you resuscitate a baby that is dying, given the choice of the parent? Like for example, like let's say kid comes out, heart's barely working. You see stuff like this on Facebook all the time. People share things about like pray for a little baby so and so who's just spends like 4 months like on with tubes down their throat, and they die at the end of it. So what he's saying is like, if a mother is in labor, I can tell exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired, and then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. What they're talking about is like, if you are caring for an infant that is very likely going to die, whatever you do, but the doctors don't have like a definitive statement, like, you know, it's maybe like we might be putting your baby through hell for half a year. They might like we don't know. Technically, there's stuff we could do at this point. Baby's like on life support or whatever. Like, what do you do then? That's what he's talking about. He's not talking about like, oh, if you carry a healthy baby to term and it's or maybe it's in the incubator or whatever. It's like, yeah, you know, that's not for me. Push the gas button. That's not what they're talking about.
But it's also important because the way they talk about this is so asinine. By focusing on this, they completely remove the context of the reality of all abortions. The vast majority of abortions, when I say vast majority, 95% happen in the first 20 weeks. No, 15 weeks. 15 weeks. So 95% of all abortions happen in that first trimester. Then after that, anything after, I want to say, one sec, I'm going to grab a CDC data. After 21 weeks, only 1% of abortions. 99% of abortions happen before 21 weeks, which means that that third trimester or these things are such an infinitesimally small, rare psychotic occurrence. This is not a thing that is worth like as a thing, because the reason it happens is almost never, boy, I kind of don't want the kid anymore, which is what they put forward. That like a mother gets to the 9th month and they're like, this pregnancy thing ain't for me. When in reality, it's, if you have this baby, you're going to die. That kind of decision. And it's a horrifying thing to have to go through and to consider. But the idea that it would be made illegal is asshole-ish in every single way. And it's one of those things that genuinely I hate about this debate, because anyone who's like, well, what about 8th month or 9th month? It's like, if you understood every single one of those circumstances and could actually have empathy for another human being, you wouldn't ask. But mostly people are sociopaths who are ideologues and they don't care.
Yep.
Okay, we got everyone in.
President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill?
Yeah.
Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so, that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people who do go, she's missing them and paying them to be.
Okay, I paused it. Isandring, then Brooks.
Of course, because of course, because the rallies are the important part here. Let's address that first, because we wouldn't want to forget that.
We have to, because you've called his manhood into question by saying his rallies may not be as large as he's claiming.
Yeah, and boring. Did you see his eyes when she said that? His eyes went.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. He started getting pissed. He was really, I'm impressed he maintained control of himself. He's been practicing, but he was getting pissed.
It'll falter. I have a feeling.
Well, someone else might have just ignored that point, because it doesn't hit unless he responds to it the way he's responding to it.
Yeah.
So now it's blood in the water. He's going to perceive that. So this is where it starts to spiral out.
Okay, so and we got Papa Duck again, $5 super chat. Thank you once again so much. You've been so supportive tonight. We really appreciate it. Surprise, he says quietly. I had serious asthma when I was young. I went on to serve. Thank you again very much for your support. We really appreciate it. And let's continue now with the debate.
there. And then
did I say? I said. Wait, did I say? I got the name wrong. I said Papa Duck. I think I've done that like 3 times. I'm having issues with names today. I finally got Sundays straight. So Papa Dutch. All right, and then
you just have a fascination for the old Haitian dictator.
There we go. That's a fucking deep cut there, Lance. That's a deep cut, my friend. That's, you know how many people get the Papa, and it's only one letter. It's only one letter off. That's no one got that joke except for me, I think. So good job. Papa Doc Chevalier, the horrifying butcher of
Papa Doc. Okay, I got it.
Yep, I didn't get it.
One letter off. It was a good one. That was a great.
It was a good. It was way over. I'm glad we brought Lance in so somebody could appreciate the humor.
And I'm glad I can be here to get his jokes. Because someone should. It was a good one.
All right, so Yep, sorry. I got distracted.
Showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating
no,
the
not
pets
Santa's little helper.
of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
If you haven't
as
seen
far
this
as
on Twitter the last
rallies are
couple days,
concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say.
Oh God, I was sorry. I was watching Lance.
Have you seen this shit?
Doing his no.
Oh yeah.
Where was it? So so some guy, there was a hit and run, and now people are going on about Haitians. I think there was also I was reading it might have actually been in my Discord. I was reading something about there was a landlord somewhere that was trying to evict his tenants, so he was trying to claim that it was overrun by Haitian gangs or something.
No, that's the Aurora. The Aurora Venezuelan gangs. There was a handful of buildings that were being condemned, and he was being forced to relocate and pay for all the people to move. But if it's because they're criminals, then he doesn't have to do that. So he got a PR firm that pushed this new narrative, and in the handful of days, and literally, by the way, they stopped caring about it the day after the judge deferred his payment and requiring him to do it for another 6 months, which is kind of a coincidence. So the Aurora thing kind of bubbled out. So now they've got Haitians in Ohio that are refugees that there's an epidemic of killing and eating people's pets. And I honestly can't find the reason for it, except racism, generally speaking. But it's there's Fox News articles about how there's 65 missing pets in the last year, and that's proof. It's insane.
Well, it's weird because I remember they used to do that about Chinese families in the early 2000s. You would see stuff that on. It wasn't Reddit, but it was
you're outside of Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that area. Huge Chinese influx, and when that happened, absolutely.
Oh, you're outside of Vancouver, man. We should go have a beer.
Oh, thanks for doxing me, Brooks.
You fucking.
That's why I don't tell the Isandring where I live.
Did I really dox you? You've said before where you live.
No, we're gonna go with outside Vancouver. We're gonna let them think I was doxed because it's a smoke screen. If they think they found me, they're not going to look anymore.
Papa Dutch, $2. Mine's bigger. And UTV and Ham KD9W and V. Thank you very much for giving the dyslexic guy something to try to work out there. That's a $20 super chat. Thank you so much once again for your support. It's very generous. We really appreciate it, and it really is why we can do this. So thank you. I appreciate it. And so let's go on and hopefully I think Brooks is right. I think we're about to see something out of Trump.
They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said
people
that.
on
Maybe
the
that's a good
TV.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking
They
this.
said the aliens took their
say my
cows.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. You know,
Jesus Christ.
This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans
down, Brooks.
who
You're gonna
have
have an
formally
aneurysm
worked
live
with
on
President
camera.
Bush, Mitt Romney, and John
I'm sorry.
McCain, including.
Okay.
I've never seen in my life a presidential candidate say, I saw it on TV. That's an insane thing.
There was there was a man on the TV.
I read it in the funny papers. You know,
That's insane to me. Like, that's his response is, I saw it on TV. This is a presidential candidate.
No, it's worse. He's a former president too. He's just not a presidential candidate. Oh dear Lord!
He's the guy on the TV. He's like, sir, that's your vice presidential nominee. Oh,
Well, I'm getting quasi what I wanted. I'd say 3/4 of what I wanted. I'm still not getting I'm still not quite getting the policy, so I'm only getting like half policy here, but at least I'm getting all dumpster fire from at least half this stage.
As a note,
KK
Kamala released a lot of her policies on her website just a couple days ago. Again, she's only been a presidential candidate for like 3 weeks, so that's not terrible. And there's a lot of stuff in there if you want to dive in. She's basically backing it up. There's actually a decent amount of heft to a lot of the stuff she says. Just mentioning.
but imagine if every debate was like this.
They're just calling him out straight up to his face.
Like,
I've never seen any. This is insane.
And actually,
love
if you look at where we've paused here, right at his face, if you look at his face when he got called out too, he's so unused to it happening. It's a bit like a deer in the headlights. He doesn't quite know what to do. KKSGG, $5 super chat. Washington State does rock, though. Yes, thank you so much for that super chat. We really appreciate it.
Washington State is lovely.
thank you. I do my
Including
best.
the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the Republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you. Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a
You're
bad job.
definitely a different
I fired
kind of
them.
person.
They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
What?
He's starting to sound like a parody of himself, actually. This doesn't even sound like him. This sounds like
This
Stephen
sounds like a Saturday
Colbert
Night
doing
sketch.
him.
A bad Saturday Night Live sketch.
Yeah.
Let me continue on immigration.
In effect, he's just backdoor insulted Reagan, too. You know, I admit.
Yeah.
What you wanted to talk about
now.
earlier,
The
so let's get...
Republicans hate Reagan now.
Oh, I know, but that shows how unconnected with reality this new GOP is.
Yeah, it's wild.
Back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to.
He also
as well.
lost by a much wider margin.
You call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it. Because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made,
I know,
crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, it's going to be... I just imagine a billion memes are coming out of this, like lizard people. I saw it on TV. Like it's just not going to be like it's insane.
Flat Earth. I saw it on TV.
And again, he didn't answer the fucking question. He just rambled about how awful Biden is. Like it's kind of nuts, and it's great. They're actually like keeping him to the fire on this. I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah, and they just Yeah. They're definitely doing better. Let's see. What was it? He just fact checked one thing. He's the FBI said crime is down. They pre-fact.
It's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, President Harris.
Well, I think this
they don't have the same. They're not working with the same numbers as the guy on the TV.
Yeah.
The guy in the two things real quick. So we just got this. Speaking of memes, I just thought this was. I think that's going to be Kamala Harris.
That's about how I feel. Yep.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm gonna steal that very quickly for my thumbnail after tonight. Just so you know. Thank you very much.
I will send it to you. I will send you a copy. That's spectacular. Titan sent me that one. So
I mean,
that's awesome.
Here's the thing. I think it's kind of over at this point, because at this point he's cited exactly one actual discrete source for his information, and it was the TV. Everything else he says now is suspect. He actually has no credibility in the context of this debate anymore. He can't. I don't know where you even go from here.
Yeah. No, this is a murder. He's getting murdered on national television.
He has been murdered.
Homer, where
now he just has to endure it.
Place it with Trump's face. It's at the end of the episode where Homer, the sexual harassment episode, "Let us never fight again," he says to the TV as he hugs it. That's all I can think with Trump right now. I was like, I'm so sorry I said you were a liar, TV. Like
somebody needs to. Okay, we need that. We need to commission that.
But the true tragedy here is that there's 25% of the population that believes this crap that he's saying.
Oh, there's 25%. Yeah, there's 25% of the population who are thinking he's winning right now. They're watching this. He's winning.
It's Holy Writ brought down off of the mountain with stone tablets, and
this is why you can't.
Mind-boggling.
You just have to remember, there's an entire section of the populace we just have to learn to dismiss.
Yeah. Well, I was, which is weird, by the way. Speaking as a Canadian. My family was hyper-conservative Fox News watchers back in the day. And the attitude is, you're not paying attention to what's being said. You don't really give a shit. What you're looking at is bitchy lady who looks like she works at Walmart manager. You just hate her instinctively. And you're just watching the guy. Does he look manly? Does he look smug? Whatever. And that's basically it. And you're not paying attention to anything else.
Right.
Like that's basically it. So
No,
like
that's true.
that was never going to change. It's not even a matter of what he's saying or how crazy it is. Nobody cares. Like it's not that they're stupid enough to hear that, because they're not hearing jack.
In fact, in some ways, that's exactly what they want to hear. More crazy is better from their perspective.
I'm sorry, what did you say? I didn't hear you.
Exactly.
Very nice, very nice.
Well played, well played. And Titan also did send me this Snopes. Oh God, this is I don't know how to tell our live chat this. Snopes has confirmed no evidence that Haitian immigrants are eating ducks, geese, or pets.
Well, obviously they've been co-opted by the Haitian lobby. So.
Yeah,
Look,
I'm a little.
I saw it on TV.
I just can't believe I actually had to fucking say that on air. Okay, it's just to clarify, since we're a news organization, no, this isn't happening. Papa Dutch, $2. So far, this is hilarious. Yes, this has been well worth the ticket.
We used to make jokes that Trump got all of his information from Fox and Friends. We used to joke, like this was a joke I know I made and other people. I actually don't think it's funny anymore because I think it's just accurate. He doesn't, as someone who literally has the resources to have private investigators, to have people doing things for him, to have police sources, to have FBI sources, former presidential sources, political operatives, to ask and go, hey, go find out for me. Not that, just, oh, fuck, it was on TV.
I mean, to be fair though, Brooks, you have the resources to have functioning audio, yet here we are. You're cutting out if you can't read between the lines.
I am cutting out?
Yeah, a little bit. You're
I think
you're getting crackly.
You're a little far away, or I don't know.
Fucking, what?
You're good. You're good. You're good. We heard you. We heard what you're saying.
Or national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts.
For Kamala.
So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people.
Just pause for a second.
Yeah.
But just because I'm going to head off soon, but I just wanted to comment quickly on this. Like, with the last Biden debate, it was, you were just praying in the back of your head, is Trump going to fudge this enough that this is enough to pass? This is actually, I think, the strongest presidential debate I've ever seen. Like, she's murdering, which is you don't typically see. Like, it's
and she's She's been. You can see she's been holding back. So, like the comments about in the first debate, you saw Biden trying to get in every chance he could. Oh, I'm the only one here who's not convicted. I'm, trying every. She's waiting until the right time, and she is pulling the trigger on each of these as it's appropriate. She's not like just trying to unload all at the beginning and then.
I mean, to be fair, like I don't think Biden could pull off what she's doing right now. I think he would have just lost the thread by that point. But like even compared to Obama, though, like this is an actually like strong and energetic performance.
Isandring had said this, and as soon as he said it, I started watching for it, and he's right. She's picked up the mannerisms and the cadence of Obama, and she's actually sliding into it more and more as this goes, which suggests to me coaching and spending a good deal of time with him.
That makes sense, actually.
And some of his colloquialisms too, some of his preferred statements.
I feel like she's better though. She talks faster.
Yeah. Well, this is sped up.
Oh, well, that would explain a lot, actually. Thank you.
We've sped it up 25%. So, but we either did that or it's the Adderall that Trump has taken. Maybe both. I don't know. All right. So let's see. $5. Papa Dutch. I want a printed transcript of this as soon as possible. I know this is. I'm actually already looking forward to the headlines tomorrow to see what they. It's just.
There's no way Kamala doesn't win this.
Yeah, no.
At this point, she would have to like.
He needs to come out with. Oh, by the way, the cops just raided your house, Kamala. These are the orphans we found in your basement.
That's if that's his ace in the hole, he may have a shot. But yeah.
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increased by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that.
See the billion of everything
she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the
be me. Oh my God! Shut up about you.
My money is more bigly than yours.
No one's ever seen the billions. I don't know what he's talking about.
No one's ever seen no one's ever, and he had immense difficulty coming up with. I mean, if they hadn't lowered the bond on his appeal, he would have had to sell. He might have lost. No, they would have seized assets, including possibly Trump Tower. That's not somebody who's got billions and billions, but
I'm also. I am a little. I do find this a little bit funny. So he's talking about like he received a fraction of how many millions did he say? Was it 15?
400 million. Yeah.
400, only a fraction of 400. Oh, he's basically a pauper then. Like Jeff Bezos got $300,000 from his parents. That's technically a fraction of that. it's like,
one thing I will say about her performance is she's doing a really good job about baiting him out to talk about himself and trying, getting his ego involved into making it appear that he's just so self-absorbed about he's got to address all of the points that were made about him personally versus what is he going to do as president for the American people. She's doing a fantastic job of doing that.
Police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Silence, wench.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people.
So I literally saw earlier today, J.D. Vance was at was doing a thing, a rally, and he said, "Watch for her to say, excuse me, I'm talking." That's what weak people do. She's going to interrupt Trump, and she's going to say, "Excuse me, I'm talking." And watch for that, and count how many times she does that. And Trump's the first one to do it. Yes,
this is your thumbnail. This is your thumbnail here. This is the shot. This is it.
One. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Let me. Well, yeah. Well, I like it. Yep. All right.
That burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised money to get him out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing,
they're transing them all too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I promised at the start of this.
He sounds incredibly unhinged. He sounds unhinged.
He does.
Like more than.
Well, no. Wait. Hang on. Wait. It all makes sense.
Thing to say about unhinged people, right?
No. It's guys. It actually all makes sense. So they put the chemicals into the water, turns the lower life forms gay. The higher animals eat the frogs. They eat the dogs. They get trans.
I think I see it.
It all makes sense.
I genuinely, I told the audience, I was like, oh no, we'll let it go for like 3 or 4 minutes. I can't. It's just, he's just, we have to keep stopping. I need to hear that right again. So we're going to go back just a bit and hear the start of the, once again, this is a list of things I never thought I'd have to say as a host. Importing immigrants to throw them in jail and force them to become trans.
So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of
I have seen
desert
a
solar
solar
field.
field.
These are not good things for the environment that she understands.
Thank you.
16 square miles.
Whoa.
I have seen it.
He just said solar plants are bad for the environment. He's amazing.
Well, there's an argument. There's an argument to be made that that's true.
Well, I mean,
There's
look, scientists predict that at some point the sun will actually, like, it'll lose its energy, that it'll go cold, right? And
Look,
if you have plants absorbing the solar energy, you're going to accelerate that process. Have you seen 2012?
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm gonna snap
Has to
this
be
back
true
a bit.
because you heard it from somebody on TV.
Oh, that's right.
One of my
yeah.
favorite things ever. That's going to be.
You ever see a solar?
We're gonna need to.
Right there's perfect.
We're gonna. You know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna put that in the In Time store. We're gonna have a shirt that's gonna just have. I saw that on TV.
Okay.
Solar plant. By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they.
So, by the
what's
way,
that?
because someone in the chat is. Oh no, I'm sorry. My apologies.
Yeah, go for it. No, go for it.
I'm just going to respond to somebody in the chat who's saying solar plants do cause and any kind of installation is going to cause environmental damage. But oil processing is not going to be better than that.
Take
just
400.
Go on.
Yeah,
500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get to.
environment that
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was
right back to immigrants. What were you going to say, Sunday?
I was just going to say, what was she doing when she got shot?
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, because we're storming the Capitol.
When you try to overthrow a country, sometimes people get killed. Sometimes, Lance, is that a military
rumor
fair?
To that effect. There's a rumor to that effect. I heard from a guy on TV that it's not true.
Okay, and we've still got. Oh God, okay.
This is comedy that writes itself. God.
I know. I'm not even going to need to watch. What's its
Saturday Night Live.
Life is satire.
I'm just going to see. I think we've got the. I'll get it. I'll get it in a sec. So let's go back to this.
Who's the border czar? Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done.
Pause for a second.
What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from?
Yes.
I just want to quote to you a Trump tweet, okay?
Please.
Quote. These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I won't let that happen. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz and told him that the military is with him all the way, any difficulty, and we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you. Unquote.
What was the date on that?
That was May 29th, 2020.
So what I'm going to play now, hold on a sec, just oh God. So to continue what the thread I was on earlier, I think as soon as you entered the broken into the Capitol building, they have every right to shoot you. I was extraordinarily surprised at how few casualties there were. I mean, I was stunned. But having said that,
ma'am, What happened to you?
I got maced.
You got maced.
Let place.
And what happened? You were trying to go inside the Capitol?
I made it like a foot inside, and they pushed me out, and they maced me.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Elizabeth. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
And why did you want to go in?
We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution.
Thank you.
Also, that's not what someone who has been maced acts like. Having been maced myself, and I have a tolerance for such things, you're not kind of upset and dabbing your eyes and face with the towel. No. Not the mace they use. Not the fucking mace they use.
Countries all over the world, not just South America. They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one of those, David, one of those people are going to be prosecuted. One of the people that burned down Minneapolis is going to be prosecuted, or in Seattle. They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. One of those people are going to be prosecuted.
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond
here. We asked him twice. He said just yes or no.
Oh, I like these guys. This is good.
These guys are good. This is also probably some of the best moderation I've ever seen, I think.
Finally, somebody holding him to account.
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed with the moderators.
Well, it's also pretty balanced. Like what I was worried about is this is going to be taken as a thing that they could use to say, well, look, the moderation was a ambush or whatever. But they've been hard on Kamala. Yeah, they got her good. I don't think she was super strong in that response.
She's not completely mentally blank.
Yeah.
So, like, he's just a waste of human space, so he has no way to respond. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I really appreciate the fact that they're being fairly balanced about going after both of them for things that they've said and things that they've changed.
Yep, absolutely. So $5, Papa Dutch. Folks, I can honestly tell you there is nothing we can imagine that is more amazing than how things sometimes work out. Yeah, I played that "It's a Revolution, Man" clip a few too many times back in the day when we covered that. One of my guilty pleasures. I will say this: I'm usually not very hawkish, but if you talk like that, I mean, she is very, very, very lucky that all she got was whatever that was, mace adjacent or whatever.
I'm not hawkish at all. For me, it's good. Do a revolution. Don't cower it out and be a bunch of weirdos who stay inside of the velvet ropes. If you're going to do it, go do the thing and accept the punishment if you believe in it.
We were trying to do revolution and they pepper sprayed me.
The line that matters, and it's an American guy. It's an American hero. I regret I have but one life to give for my country. That's the thing. If you believe the shit, that's the thing you're doing. You do it.
Nathan
That's
Hale.
fine. That's the way it works. But
yep.
They didn't do it because they're cowards.
All of life is a wager. Either you're trying to start the revolution or not.
I regret I can handle only so many sniffles for my country.
Oh, God, we're making lots of new merchandise today.
I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville. where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, the militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just...
All right, I'm going to pause it here for a sec. Secular Sakai, 199 sticker. Thank you so much, Secular Sakai. We, again, appreciate your support, so thank you very much for helping us out with that. Isandring, did you want to quickly elaborate on that, or just go forward? Up to you.
Oh, there are so many great things to attack Trump on. You don't have to lie, and that has been proven time and time again to be a lie. It just irritates me when it's like, wait a minute, you've got great things to hit him on. Stop with this, because you're just giving ammunition to other people to dismiss everything else that you're saying because of one dishonest attack. It irritates me.
There were
people on both sides.
On both sides. Okay, you may have something I don't know. I thought he had said that.
He did say that, but they're taking it completely out of context. It was specifically in reference to the people debating about whether to tear down the statues and the people who are trying to stop them from.
Was this said before or after the woman was killed at the protest?
After.
I don't.
Okay, if that was after, then that's sort of a different statement, right? Because that's why he would have been making the statement. So I don't know about that, buddy.
Yeah, especially if it was said after, especially if somebody's died. I think that's a statement he at a minimum should not have made.
Right, but if he was, he wasn't talking about the people carrying tiki torches. He was talking about the people protesting over taking down statues or not taking down statues. There's just so many better things to attack of him.
Tiki torches.
All right, well let's okay. I don't want to get caught up on because I think this is semantics on one thing, but I did want to make sure that you had a chance to say it.
Yeah, there's so many better things to attack him on. Stay away from.
I don't think the honor of the protesters of the tiki torch alt-righters is going to be a critical feature of Kamala's defeat if that comes to pass, God forbid.
Yeah.
That is true.
Right. Follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed. Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all. I said that sarcastically. You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, There's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten.
Well, yeah. I love what he says, too. I was told, yeah, the guy on the television told him again. It's the guy on the television. What were we going to say, Isandring?
Yes, guy on the television. You just completely, what the hell did he just say? Oh, that he... there's plenty of proof. He said there's plenty of proof. Just look at it. It's like, where have I heard this argument before? Something about falling off the edge of the world.
Yeah.
There's the proof. It's right there. If you just look, of course the world's flat.
And I think it's weird that he had to win more votes 4 years later, as if more people were involved in it, as if a new group of people perhaps had come of age or more people voted. That is weird. Is the population growing in our world? Is that what we're supposed to believe?
The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them Republican.
No judge looked at it.
And said
they said we didn't have standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter, because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by whisker, so he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament
well, except Putin and
or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary.
I like that one.
They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up?
What the fuck?
He said, you think I'm a strong man?
Now look, you say no world leaders appreciate me. Pinochet and Hitler got together for dinner, and they said I was awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
I did a seance, and I looked at the TV, and they said Pinochet and
maybe Pinochet and Hitler are the man on the television who told him all these.
What's Mussolini's granddaughter's opinion of Trump? Hang on.
Oh God. Unbelievable.
And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election. It leads one to believe that
she liked 2 of his tweets.
we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day 1, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0.
What was that? Oh, I thought someone asked to pause. Okay, well, we're stopped. Papa Dutch, $5. Orban, the dude is the dude in orbit around his own fucking head. Thank you again for the super chat. You've been very generous. We really, really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. So I appreciate it, and thank you so much for your support. I've noticed his voice is getting louder. It's a little hard to tell because it's speeding. Because of the speed up, it's hard to tell between whether it's the speed up or no. He's getting louder. He is losing. Oh, you can just see it right there. He's losing his temper.
Oh, yeah. Votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed, and now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
This is a tough one.
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran, and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up.
They're
far worse
literally
than people
holding
understand
out
what's
for you
going
to
on
win
over there.
so that they can kill more
But when she
people in
mentions
Ukraine.
about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money.
Spheres of
It was a
terror.
big story, and you covered it very well,
the
actually.
new RPG from Blizzard.
Because it's
terror and fireballs of fire.
It's Borderlands 3. This is legit. It's the death sphere. He's actually got this one right. The spheres. It's a death ball. There's these random spheres that are going around like killing people in the Middle East.
I'm going to just start talking about the spheres of terror.
Okay.
So is he saying terror, or is he saying terroir, where he's discussing sort of the unctuousness that the soil imparts upon the produce grown on it? Just saying. It could be either.
It's desert.
He is not that sophisticated.
Yeah, I don't think
it really can't be either.
No, I think Brooks is right, actually. I think he's onto something.
I'm going back to it's a desert.
Money for terror.
I think he's been...
They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
And that's absolutely not not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and
Brooks, that's
distract
the deal, though. You
from
have
the
to vote
reality,
him in.
which is, it is very well known.
You're good at
that
something, never
Donald
do it for free. Remember Batman?
Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin
Is he going to deny this after just
whatever
endorsing
the hell he wants and go
Netanyahu
into
and
Ukraine.
Orban?
It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He said that several times. That Putin does fear him, and that he's the only person that Putin fears. And it's like if you look at
because Putin's absolutely terrified of the one party that would cut off aid to Ukraine while he's invading it. Like I'm sure he's quaking in his boots.
Of all the things that he mentions, he's like talking about the Nord Stream pipeline like it's Biden's thing, when I know it's a fucking weird conspiracy theory, but a lot of people are talking about how Biden blew the fucking thing up. like of all, like he's a conspiracy nutcase. And that's the thing he's going to say Biden helped make sure the Nord Stream was around, when it's like Seymour Hersh sitting here going, no, Biden actually helped blow it up. It's just weird to like have him like not connect that conspiracy theory, right? Am I alone in knowing that one? That's not a weird one. Seymour Hersh is a big name.
Unless he knows something. I don't know.
I'm going to just one chat comment that I thought was particularly apropos, Titan Uranus. His heart is pumping McDonald's grease to his head as hard as it can. That's yeah.
And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
I think we can
Keep
skip
saying things as though it's like
changes to our
if he
environment.
just says it, it'll be so.
I can feel the national IQ average dropping whenever that guy opens his mouth. Just unbelievable.
It's the old
That doesn't
line.
happen.
You know the average IQ? Half the people are dumber than that.
Yeah, I know. And he's dragging it down.
I might be wrong, actually. Did they
God damn.
I haven't. Has anybody else been found to have like had massive amounts of undisclosed gifts? I know it's like supposed to be endemic.
I didn't disclose all the gifts that I got.
I think he was talking to Supreme Court justices, but I could be wrong.
Oh,
yeah, I think I misspoke. I don't know if that I think I mixed up two people in my head. Never mind.
No,
All right.
Thomas?
We're back.
It was Thomas. It was Thomas and
Alito had a few,
Alito.
but it wasn't. I mean, well, it was. Yeah.
Well, that we know
then,
of. They're just undisclosed, but yeah.
And then there was I think one even by what's her name? It begins with a K. I can't believe
Amy. Fuck.
But it looked like it was tiny, and it was a genuine oversight. Keegan, I think, had an oversight that was
Kagan.
And she reported that one.
Elena Kagan.
Yep.
Yeah,
We must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
I was saying, in Thomas's case, it's not a question of did he accept bribes. It's a question of who didn't he accept bribes from.
Yeah, it's a much shorter list. Michelle Michaels, New Zealand 2. Oh God, no, it's not.
Pretty sure that's Michael.
And I think it is Michael. Michaels. Michaels. Thank you. And it's 2 New Zealand. What's the currency? I always, and I have to relearn. I memorized all of these things. Now we haven't streamed in so long. I've forgotten all of the. I honestly don't know what it is in New Zealand. I'm sorry. I let you down. Shout out
Probably
to Lance.
dollars.
I'm pretty sure New Zealand uses dollars.
Yeah.
Dollars? New Zealand dollars? Oh,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
perfect.
Sure.
That's what I said. Shout out to Lance. Hope you are recovering well. Thank you for that. We're glad to have Lance
If the
on.
haze, lessens a bit, I'll be able to tell you if I'm healing up.
Well, what I did was, I know the dollar sign gives it away. You know what? All right, our mods are way too loose with people out there. Anyways, I did call up Lance and said that if she would slip him an extra OxyContin before this stream, I'd give her $50, and she said she'd think about it. I just thought it would be amusing to have Lance just completely, but no, we get the silver one. Papa Dutch $5. I wonder if there's an actual golden crack. Oh, I wonder if there's a trail of golden crack pipes leading to his suite. Yeah, he was talking about getting high and all. It was just, oh my God. All right, so let's get back.
Before you continue, Nick, thanks for having me on.
Yes.
First of all, I need to take off at this point.
All right.
But Lance, Nick, Isandring, and Brooks, cheerio.
All right, thank you so much, Sunday. See you later.
Take care.
Take it easy.
I'll wave at you next time I'm at home.
All right, so let's get back to this.
To do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more. because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin. Hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
Right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Oh,
God damn.
Look at that expression.
God damn.
Oh, I know each of you have something to say.
His Cheerios.
Being emasculated on national TV by her, I think, might be peak Donald Trump for me.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay, let me I'll get to that in a second. So, I know Lance is going to have a whole bunch of... the only thing I'm going to say is, obviously, all of that was complete and utter horseshit. I mean, he'd meet with Zelensky. Zelensky's going to say, we want all of Ukraine back, and we're not negotiating. Does he realize that? I don't know. So anyways, comments, anyone?
I'm curious if anyone disagrees with anything Kamala said there. Because
not
I think if he was president, yeah, it'd be over, be done. We wouldn't have support. Like, I don't find issue with anything she said. Maybe overstating her role in getting the alliance together, but she did play a part. So it's like overstating, not a lie.
Yep. Nope.
Short of giving Vladimir a blowjob in the middle of Red Square, I don't think Trump could do anything more to make evident to the entire planet that he's pro-Putin, pro-Russian imperialist.
Yep.
And that may very well be the compromise that has actually gotten him in trouble thus far. Who knows? It wouldn't shock me.
At this point, that wouldn't surprise me.
Papa Dutch, $2, spoken like a fucking New York landlord. And then also Papa Dutch again for $2. Nice. Thank you, Papa Dutch, once again for your continued support and for your super chats. We really appreciate it. AF Kaplan, Lance, well said. Absolutely. I think nail meets head. Let's see what he has to say.
President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening.
Yeah, that's
he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand,
I'm sorry, what was that, Isandring?
Oh, I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember months of people talking about nuclear weapons use.
Pretty sure that's like when you're talking about Russia, no one gives a fuck about Russia. Pretty much sure when you say, well, it's Russia, the nuke thing is kind of up front, right? That's front loaded into that conversation at this point.
That's why we talk about Russia.
Yeah.
Otherwise we wouldn't.
Yeah, pretty much.
They sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with...
I like the way he actually makes it sound like everything was cool, everything was fine. She shows up and
she made it happen.
Yeah, well, it got so bad that Putin was like, "Oh fuck, we have to invade," and then just got all his troops lined up, got all the logistics set up, and got everything set, and invaded 3 days after she fucked it all up. It's just like everything was fine. She shows up, and then.
But then this Kamala lady showed up, and I guess we had to murder a bunch of people.
Yeah, now I mean that's just how bad it was that they were that motivated.
Goddamn.
Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of America.
I think she's making some good points. She is avoiding answering the actual question.
Yeah. Brooks?
Yeah.
American diplomacy.
It wasn't just Camp David. It was on 9/11.
Oh, God, really? I didn't know that.
It's kind of a magical thing that if I were to tell you and you couldn't go look up, you'd go, what? No. Yeah.
The difference between real world and fiction writers is fiction writers have to make sense.
Yep.
Okay, so she's knocking this out of the park, and someone's requested to hear the whole answer, and I think that's legit. So I'm going to knock it back just a little bit, and we'll hear the answer because I think that's
Security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be Commander-in-Chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began...
I'm sorry, I have to pause it again. That was amazing. A master class in debating. Just this. She just can't think of a word.
I can't say what I want to say, so I'll just say this former president.
I'm gonna say this. We always talk in superlatives all the time. It's like, oh, this is the most important presidential thing ever. But this is I think. This is an insane debate. The moderators are doing spectacularly well. Harris is doing about as good as I've ever seen in a debate. It's insane. $5 from Papa Dutch. Yep. Yeah.
I did not think I was going to enjoy this debate as much as I was, because I have been so lackluster in enthusiasm for anybody in this race, and I was expecting to be bored out of my mind trying to stay awake, and I am thoroughly entertained.
I actually presumed, because Kamala historically has not been strong in these situations, and she clearly there are people working with her on this because she's not stupid. By the way, it's not cheating to have people work with you and to prepare and practice. Rehearse things. Don't look like a shithead. But I figured she'd be kind of crap, and he'd be kind of crap, and it'd be kind of crap. I didn't think he'd be batshit insane. More so than ever, she would be tight and well-spoken and particular. This is not what I thought this would be at all.
She did do a debate back in college.
Yeah, but she did shit
yes,
in the last
yes, I am.
debates 4 years ago. Like, oh, there was those debates in the like prelims. It was bad shit. She sucks at this usually. So I don't know what happened. Like whether
well,
that was
I do like the comment that we got then that said that like when she was debating as somebody's boss and you're beholden and your mistakes and what you do injure your superiors.
It's true. She had to be restrained because necessarily she was kind of in that position. It's fair.
Yeah, so it's an awkward position when you have to debate on someone else's behalf. Now she owns it. So yeah, it's insane. Papa Dutch, $5. Shit, I served 20 years and I'm still not sure where Camp David is. Well, it's hallowed grounds. How can you not? Okay. If you find it, let me know. Yeah, well, I know it's real because
it's a bad idea. Don't go there.
Oh, or don't go there.
For you.
That's true.
Everyone who goes there.
Oh no! I invite everybody to go visit. They'll have an experience.
Yeah,
they will.
You'll have a story to tell. Maybe.
And the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal.
We all want to move on. Oh my God. So I literally, right before that rant started, I took a drink of water and I basically literally did the spit take. I didn't want to spit it up, so I was just stuck the whole time he's talking. I couldn't swallow, but I couldn't. I was like, where's my garbage bin? Oh my God.
So did he say, correct me if I'm wrong, like to summarize, yeah, those guys are killing our soldiers. So that's the guys I wanted to talk to. Because you got to talk to the guys who are killing our soldiers. And I said, here's a picture of your house. And I'm going to blow it up if you don't stop. What? And so they talked to me. Is that the summary?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. I hate it. I hate this.
But that's $2. Camp David exists, but doesn't. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never even heard of it. But thank you very much for the super chat. We appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, God.
And in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics.
I thought it was because she went
Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
Her expression during that's great.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Her expression during that is great.
Her expression is great. I'm going to go back. I want to, I
just
actually
watch
took
her face during that whole thing.
Yeah. I took a class in much more, way more advanced than the class that Brooks took. I took the best class ever on facial expressions in camera, like the best, like just ever. Like I've been told by everybody that I'm the best at doing this. When you look at her face,
I taught you.
Yeah, that's why.
Bigly class, Bigly.
It was Bigly. I was Bigly taught by Isandring, so I probably am not going to get this right. But That face says there's a name for it. It's I am so gonna kick his ass face. That's the face. Look for it. It's coming up. Oh, she knows she's gonna kick his ass.
Yeah, the fuck you saying is kind of like in the back of my head as I'm like, the fuck are you saying? What? Like, and it's because he's I don't know if he's actually been challenged on this so directly, because this is the thing he's always done. He's always resorted to this very simple narrative of, well, I don't care, but I mean, it's weird, right? Which means I care. And he's always like played this back and forth. Pocahontas and Elizabeth Warren. I don't care what she does, but don't you think it's weird? But it's like, to actually call him on it to its face is pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. They are not pulling punches. He is never going to debate again.
No, this will be a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
I'm sorry. I'm going to go back because you have to see the face, and you missed it. I'm going to make you see the face because it's
Ukraine,
worth it.
because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was he owned land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. Yep. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time's up.
So
again,
Brooks,
inflation that you jump-started by sending out billions of dollars into the economy without any attached production. It's like you started it. Inflation lags behind the inflation of the monetary supply. Sick of this.
So, Brooks, if I can ask you a question about his argument. Is his argument essentially, I'm rubber, you're the glue. Everything you say bounces off of me and sticks to you?
No, I'm sorry. I believe actually he's appealing to the Supreme Court case of names and words versus sticks and stones.
Okay, I appreciate your correction.
May break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
Okay.
Are you sure?
So-
I thought it was the Fifth Circuit decision about something about I know you are, but what am I?
Oh, yes, the Herman decision.
Oh,
The Herman
yes.
decision.
true.
Yes. Entirely possible he's pulling a Herman, or as they commonly call it, the Pee-wee defense.
Mm. All right, well, good. So I think we're all on the same page here.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President Trump, we have to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
She has a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her
President.
plan is until just recently.
I just need
Lindsey,
to
President
respond.
Trump-
No, the
President
former
Trump-
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to respond
No,
to.
I'm sorry.
I just need
We're going to move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long
Oh, she should have let that go. Because he was looking unhinged, and she interrupted him while he was making a mistake. She should have let him go, even though he was full of shit. He was looking insane.
I'm not worried.
What? I'm not worried either.
I'm not worried.
Listen, that is the first mistake I've seen her make since this started. I haven't seen Trump do one thing correctly except pronounce his own name. So $10, Papa Dutch. In the broader view, we must eventually see all of us as Earthlings, no one else, and we must, and we are all we have got to work with for all our sakes. I appreciate that in a way that you probably, since you're new here, probably don't know, because we've had that kind of discussion before, and unfortunately, I think short of aliens coming down that would presumably give us a reason to abandon someone else to fight against. Unfortunately, it seems that we are our species first, and our gender, race, sex, ethnicity, everything else a distant second. We are human beings first, everything else distant second. That's an issue that's very close to my heart, and it's one that we are learning slowly. That was the Martin Luther King line. I'll say it again, probably the 10th time in the last couple of days. The arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. We're learning it. But dear Lord, is it taking a long time. Thank you very much for your generous super chat and your continued generosity. We appreciate it. Let's continue with the debate.
Vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Correct. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are...
That was my exact thought. It's like, well, tell us what you're going to do so that we have a reason to vote for you.
They've
he said it 9 years ago.
Shitting on Kamala for not having a plan, having no plan. She's got no plan. Well, I have concepts of a plan, which is awesome.
But also remember, they said at the start of that question, 9 years ago, you said you had a plan. So it's been 9 years, and he still just has the concepts of a plan.
Well, I don't want to articulate a plan because you'll misinterpret it.
I do think, even though I think that he's completely full of shit and just, I will say that I think that this is one of the best responses that he's had to any of these questions so far. Was his, do I let it rot or do I try and make it the best that it can be? As far as a political answer to that, was probably the best one he's given tonight.
That was a decent answer. It wasn't a great one, but yeah, you're right. I think it's the first decent answer he's given. That's a good observation.
Concepts and options we have to do that, and you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. Nice. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time. When I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny? If a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes. And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it. Fastest prologue in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot of...
You made a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying
That's
privately for
not how you do
insurance
it.
that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's
Insurance to bankrupt you. Yeah, that's always important.
It could
Iris.
make it all cheaper and more efficient if we just made it all state run and be done. But just saying.
So, Iris, this is actually going much worse for Trump than I was expecting. I know the bar was so low. I really, yeah.
Actually, I disagree with that statement. I think this is going way better for Kamala than I was expecting.
Yeah,
it's like, I think that she is really, that she's really stepped up and made a huge improvement in her debating skills.
Yeah,
I'm
I let her
surprised.
on that. She just fucking nailed it. At some point, it's not going to be tonight, but to sit down and just as someone who's done debating, sit down and go over how she's breaking down these points. She's been doing amazing, and she just murdered him with the John McCain. She, again, like I said earlier, she was holding on to that one, and she was waiting because she knew she'd have an opportunity to use it, and then and it's like. And now all the military people listening to this who have been leaning towards, Trump are sitting there looking like, not to say that I hope everyone knows what I meant by that. They're just sitting there going, yeah, you just reminded me of what he did to John McCain. And it's just like, yeah.
It's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. They're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate.
He is so furious. I'm impressed. He's managed to keep control of himself. But I mean, if you just saw his face at that last second, he is.
I'm almost sad it's ending.
Yeah. No, he's
live from the
control of himself, but only barely.
Yeah.
National Constitution Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here again, David Muir and Lindsay Davis.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past. and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it, and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm
Wow.
That was not what I expected.
Well, I definitely need to take a shower now.
Yeah, I don't even know if I have much to say after that, except I think from here out, to me, and it's been the case for a while, mini story. My parents and I recently had, my parents are Trumpers. Well, they don't call themselves that. They were for RFK, and now they follow him where he goes. They were really upset about Tim Walz. They hated him the day after he was picked. And I was confused because he seems like the jolliest knight, like what the fuck? And they didn't have a reason. And then they said they hate Kamala. They used some words for her. They didn't really have a reason. And then they talked about the border. We went right into it, and it became sort of a back and forth. And I asked, so what do you think's happening there? And they said, oh, there's millions of people have come across the border illegally. I said, that's just not true. It's just not a thing. How would you know, Brooks? Well, I'm looking at the stats from Customs and Border Patrol. And they said, oh, well, those are lies. So there's no conversation to be had. These people are, in what Sunday talked about a little bit earlier, these people are invested very directly in a specific thing. They're into a specific thing. Yeah, cult. They're there. That's it. It's over. And that setup, I think, puts us in a very particular place where it's like, hey, what are we doing and how are we doing it? Where are we doing it and how? And I think that thing is, this is where we need to be spending our time thinking about what's happening, how it's happening, and what we can be doing in that direction.
Well said. I agree. Also, I think we inlined all the commentary. So I think other than a wrap up, I don't think we have much to say. There is. I'm definitely getting some static from your mic, but one of the things I've noticed too is one of the times I noticed it, your whole screen glitched for a second, so it may not be your audio. It may be
this program internet. Has a really weird feedback happening, so I need to figure it out. I'm going to let you go and go try to fix that. I've got some weird memory leak right now that's filling up a hard drive, so I do have to go.
All right. Thank you very much. Good to see you, and we will see you soon. All right. So, that was Brooks. Very glad to see him as always. Commander Lance McMillan, any thoughts, final thoughts as we wrap this up for tonight? I thought we'd have like a half-hour discussion afterwards, but we ended up just, it was so insane.
There's nothing to discuss, really. I mean, it's the comedy sketch writes itself, except it's not comedy. It's tragedy writ large.
It would be comedy if it was happening to any other country or any country that didn't have nuclear weapons and
I don't like watching politics these days, particularly if he or one of his spokescretins is on doing their thing, because I find the message so thoroughly distasteful. Not just the message itself, but the way in which it is presented, with just the most outlandish BS having, thrown out there, and, look, behold, isn't it the most immense, wonderful, golden thing in the world? Oh, yes, we love it. We love it. There's no logic behind it, and that annoys the hell out of me. I don't like a situation where you can't have a rational discussion about something. I mean, I may not agree with a lot of the things the Republican Party pushes, but I understand, or used to at least, that, okay, they are still looking for the same kind of things I want in terms of making life better for those people who are citizens of this country. I really don't come away with that feeling from the MAGA types. It has nothing to do with making life better for anyone other than the anointed orange shit gibbon.
No, I think that's a good observation. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Lance, and I will repeat that super chat there, hoping for a speedy recovery. Isandring, any final thoughts before we head out?
That was a lot more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be, as far as just the entertainment value of watching it. I still don't like Trump. I really don't like either of them. However, I am way more inclined to vote for Kamala rather than Trump. I mean, he's done way more troublesome things while in office. The first 4 years he had in office. I can't support him at all. I don't believe that he represents conservative values in any way, shape, or form. He's done incredibly dangerous things for a republic. These are things that you just don't do. We did an entire show on him, very much resembling Pinochet.
Yep.
I can't, and it's like I'm getting to the point where it's like a third party just isn't viable, and I don't like the third party candidate that I would vote for either. So I'm getting to the point where, hey, I mostly agree with the what do you call them? I just drew a blank on the word I wanted to use. The generalized
I want to do this. Elect me and I'm going to do this. Of course, they don't tell you exactly how they're going to do it, but most of those points that Kamala brings up and says, hey, I want to do this. I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. We should probably do that. There's a couple of things that she's pointed out that I don't think are going to be useful, and I am opposed some of her economic things, such as the idea of granting $25,000 to help people buy a house. We've seen what this has done in the college loans. It's like that's not actually going to be helpful. That's going to cause some more problems down the road. So there's a few things where I can get nitpicky and say I don't like this. I don't think this is a good idea. I think this is going to cause a lot of problems. But the majority of stuff that she talks about, I'm like, yeah, I can get behind that. It's going to matter how you do it. So I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'm going to let you go ahead and try it. Try what you want to do, because things will either get better or they'll collapse. So either way, there's an end to it.
Let me ask you something, Isandring.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see a difference between she was offering up suggestions of what she thought she was going to try to do to improve things? The impression I came away with, all you got from the other side was empty rhetoric of, we're so big, we're so great, and we're going to solve everything. But they don't ever offer concrete suggestions of how they're going to achieve that.
Correct. Which irritates me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like how you do something. It's great. I've brought up the point that a lot of times the left and the right actually agree on what the problems are. Where we start really getting into disagreements is, how do you solve those problems, or should we try to solve the problem? Should government get involved in that?
Yeah.
So we have a lot of contentions on a lot of those fronts. But I want to hear what the actual plan is. What are you going to do? Yeah, we want to make life better. I don't know many people, unless you're a really dark person and just believe that the elite are out to, destroy the world, or, subdue the whole world and make everybody their chattel. I don't buy that. So, I believe that most people actually do kind of want a better world. The arguments is over how do we get there. So I don't have a lot of problems with a lot of the the goals that she has stated. I've seen where the Trump presidency went. I saw what they did. It was incredibly disturbing to me. It frustrated and pissed me off, some of the shit that Donald Trump pulled. I have zero faith or even reasonable a reason to believe that he cares one whit for our republic. I do believe that he has given us plenty of evidence to believe that he would trash the whole damn thing in pursuit of his own ego, given half a chance. And it's like, I cannot support Donald Trump in any way, shape, or form. And while I generally don't like the approach that the Democratic Party takes towards things, because they tend to want to have the federal government fix everything and do everything, and I don't think that that's appropriate. But I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, hey, we got Donald Trump, and I know where that goes. Yeah. Let's give you a try. Hopefully you will moderate some of the more extreme views that, in my view, extreme overreaches that you want government to do. Hopefully that'll be moderated a bit, but you have some good goals that I agree with. Let's see if you can achieve them, and if you can't, we're not worse off. That's where I've gotten to at this point.
And that's a fair point too, which is I think if Trump gets in, we're going to be worse off. I think that's something that most people looking at the situation, including and especially experts, all the economists, and it is somebody pointed. I believe that line that he said about them laughing. The world leaders call him up and they're laughing. It's like, yes, I believe you. I believe that the world leaders call you up, and when they talk to you, they are laughing. It's just not at us. $2 from Papa Dutch. Again, it's only comedic if it isn't real. Exactly. I was going to use the adage, comedy is tragedy from the other side of the street. In this case, it's tragedy for everybody. I mean, it's real for everybody. It's real for Ukraine. One of the things I learned when we were starting out with the Ukraine shows was just how much American politics influences the rest of the world. I had no idea. I mean, I knew it influenced it, but I didn't know by how much. So it's real for everybody who wins. Also, $5 from Papa Dutch. It is well when pointing out a problem to have a solution to suggest. And Isandring did quote himself. So thank you again very much for your generosity tonight. We really appreciate it, and it does help because, as I said before, we started out saying this show is going to get demonetized, and most 50% are. So thank you very much for your support. Isandring did quote, and it was the first time I ever heard this line was from Isandring, and I thought it was really quite profound, actually, which was that conservatives and liberals actually agree on far more than we disagree on, and that tends to be the problems. We all agree on, everybody wants to solve homelessness, everybody wants to solve all of these problems. The disagreement really is on how are we going to do it. So I thought that was pretty profound. All right, well, thank you all for joining us. That went longer than we had expected, but in my view, very, very well worth it. Thank you to all of you who stuck around for so long, especially the mods who've just been great since this was a very long night, but it was a good one. So thank you all. We are going to be having on Thursday downtime, and that is going to be with Isandring, and if he's willing and got the time, it's also Lance is going to join us for that, so it'll be the three of us, and I'm sure some of these issues are going to come up, so that'll be downtime on Thursday. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next show. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, go do that. You can always find me and everybody else on the crew there, and that's also where we put our news together. We're very much a community-run show, so we get our news basically from the community, and that's how we know where we're going and what's going to where the direction of the news on this show goes. So check out the Discord. I think you'll enjoy it. My name is Nick Suter. Thank you once again for joining us, and we will see you next time. Have a good night all.
Take care.